Members, delegates, question time now for about 15 minutes. What you can't see is this vast array of bright lights here. So I can see faces, or some faces, and I can see some questions. So people putting their hands up. I'll try and work them out. Someone on my right caught my attention first, so over here first. If you can say who you are and where you're from, that'll be helpful.
Thank you very much. Richard Smith, I'm Vice Chair of Hertfordshire Police Authority, and as you will see in my question, I'm also an executive member of my local county council, and my question is based upon the possibility of neighbourhood policing fund being ring-fenced. I see hints being dropped, it may or may not be. In my county, we pay £800,000 a year towards PCSOs, and of course, as you know, we get the police authority gets significant grant in return for that partnership funding. Our total partnership funding is £1.8 million, probably one of the biggest in the country. We are extremely vulnerable if the neighbourhood policing fund is no longer ring-fenced. But furthermore, if we lose partnership funding, will we also lose the ring-fenced national funding? It's a great problem for us because we believe passionately that the 262 PCSOs make a formidable contribution towards neighbourhood policing and the very high ratings of our police force. Thank you.
Well, Richard, first of all, let me say that I completely understand this issue and have discussed it with your chief who has written to me. I start from the position that I attach equal value to you to neighbourhood policing. I think it's incredibly important, and we don't want to see any attrition at all in neighbourhood policing as a consequence of the financial challenges that any force faces. In my view, the public attach particular importance, as I described, to that visibility and availability of policing in their streets. And that the front line should be the last thing that is being cut and not the first. We also support the role of police community support officers and what they do out in communities, and it's them, of course, that the Neighbourhood Policing Fund is there to support. I will be announcing the changes which affect both specific allocations to forces, but also changes to the way in which we want to deliver grant in due course, very shortly. And the general direction of travel won't surprise anyone here, which is that we want to try and be less prescriptive about a grant and give more local discretion. And it is certainly the case that in 2012, when we have directly elected police commissioners, that these decisions will be taken by them and their chiefs together. And that's appropriate because that's the whole point of enhancing local accountability. So the issue is what we do with the Neighbourhood Policing Fund specifically in that intervening year. Should we keep the ring fence on or not? And that is something which we are considering at the moment. We will listen to all representations. I understand the particular argument that that partner funding may affect this. It's very important that we send out a message to those partners about the value of maintaining funding, if they possibly can, for this kind of shared activity in neighbourhoods. But everybody, I understand, faces difficult judgments about spending. But this is a service that is particularly valued by the public and so on. And we will be sending that message. So I will pay attention to the specific problems, but I have to say that, that I am concerned, as in general, that the demand from some quarters to lift the ring fence on the fund does suggest that there is an intention on those that would like to see the ring fence going, I'm not saying this is the case in Hertfordshire, but elsewhere, to make cuts of PCSOs that they would not otherwise be able to do. You will hardly be surprised to know that that is not something that I would welcome.
Okay, what I'm going to do is gradually work around the room, and I think it was John Godfrey who had two hands up, then I'll come to the front, then into the centre, then to the back. So we'll try and I think we'd be all day if I could see everyone and get them answered.
Thank you, Rob. My name's John Godfrey. I'm the Chief Executive of Sussex Police Authority. And whatever the future of police authorities, this will be my last APA conference because I'm retiring at Christmas. I just want to take up Nick's point about contributing to thinking on transition, because I think that's a really helpful suggestion he's made. And the point I want to make is this, that we're all in favour of what everything Nick says about devolving decision-making from the centre to the locality. I don't think anyone in this room would dispute that. What concerns me, though, is how that actually works in terms of the balance of power between the new form of governance of police authorities, that is, the new police and crime commissioners and chief constables. ACPO, it seems to me, clearly regard this as an opportunity to further accrete their power, to further distort the tripartite relationship in their favour. I say this in the knowledge my chief constable is sitting on my side. And I do think that we must be very careful to ensure that our successors, these new commissioners, are really properly equipped to do the job that new Nick want them to do. If they're really going to make a difference for local people, then they've got to have the power to do it. They've got to have control of all the assets and all the money. They've got to have control of all the staff and the officers. And only if they are in that sort of driving seat are they really going to be able to do the job you want them to do. And my question is, will you provide in your bill for all relevant assets to be held by commissioners and not by chief constables?
Okay, well, I'm going to answer this question particularly carefully for a number of reasons. Firstly, Sussex is my own local force. Secondly, John is a constituent of mine. Thirdly, he is a neighbour of mine in Arundel. And fourthly, because I now see that the chief is sitting next to him. These are four compelling reasons for me to be particularly careful about this answer. You know, there are two sort of views that have been forcefully put to us about this reform. And what they've actually, in my view, energised is a really important debate about what is the proper role of the police and what is the role of those who hold the police to account. And actually, it's a very important debate to have, and I'm sure there'll be an interesting discussion about it later. And one view that has been put to us is the view you've put. Take this opportunity to actually give commissioners more power than authorities have at the moment. That view was being repeated to me yesterday. And the other view is the view of chiefs and the police, which was also being put to us yesterday. The operational independence of the police is incredibly important. We would be very unhappy about arrangements that actually compromise that operational independence. Now, you'll have to wait to see what the detail of the response that we give, but I just want to repeat what I have been saying to everyone, because one of the things I try to do is say the same thing to different people, which is that we want to rebalance the tripartite, not to destroy the tripartite. And the way in which, in my view, it's been distorted has been that the centre has been the part that has taken too much power. And we have no wish to compromise operational independence. In fact, I wish to ensure that operational independence is protected. Our ambition is to strengthen local accountability so as to be able to stop national interference. And that means that the government is determined that we should get this balance right, and we will not be announcing any kind of dramatic shift that will mean that there is a change in that balance between those that govern policing and those that have to deliver that policing. It also means that we will not be trying to exactly set out what operational independence means. The view of the police, and I see Hugh's just come in, is that it would not be helpful to try and set that out in statute, but there would, I think, be a case for having some kind of description about how the arrangements will work on an extra statutory basis. And I think we should sit down together and work out that so as to give confidence to both sides about how these arrangements can work. But you know, if Kit were answering this, I think he might answer this question in roughly the same way as me. That when it comes to a discussion about operational independence, there is what the law says the arrangements are, And ultimately, these issues can and have in the past gone to court. And there is what is practically worked out. And if you look at Boris, for instance, he stood on a platform of election which actually said he wanted to put more police officers on public transport and he wanted to deal with knife crime. Now, his force could have said, resorted to a legality and said this is an operational matter, how many officers are deployed on public transport, and perhaps, legally speaking, it is. But what they did was sensibly sit down with the person who is responsible for governance and say, how can we deliver what is clearly the ambition of the public to deal with particular problems and build confidence. And 99 times out of 100, that is how these arrangements will work, in a spirit of constructive partnership. What we have to prepare for, and it is those situations where it does not. And we have been paying very close attention to what the precise description should be and the checks and balances, as I hope you will see when we publish the bill.
John, I'd just add, I want to reassure you that the APA, which is your members' organisation, your members are the APA, have been fighting that very particular point, whether it's myself, board members or staff going into the Home Office. It's been about ensuring that we don't end up with an all too powerful Chief Constable with all those assets. Those who are held public accountable must have those assets. Right, I'm going to start at the front here, Peter, then I'll work back, and we'll see how we're doing for time. Peter Thompson.
Peter Thompson, independent member, Durham Police Authority. Hello again, Minister. I'm concerned. I have concerns about self-interest individuals, self-issue groups, groups that would position themselves behind the PCC in the unlikely event of the bill being passed. I ask you, do you have any concerns about the alleged penetration and corruption in America being brought to our shores?
Well, firstly, Peter, just to disagree with your aside there, you talked about in the unlikely event of this bill being passed. You might be positioning yourself, but as I just repeat that this was a manifesto commitment, my judgment is the House of Commons will vote for this legislation, and because it's a manifesto commitment, the House of Commons will have the last say too. So I think if anybody is kind of kidding themselves into thinking this isn't going to happen in 2012, I do earnestly ask you to focus instead on how we ensure that it works properly. Now, clearly, we don't want to do anything which might encourage corruption, and we must have all of the proper checks and balances to ensure that that does not take place. But I think the key here is that actually the electorates that we are talking about are going to be actually very significant electorates in terms of their size. I think that means that it is highly unlikely. In fact, I do not think it is conceivable that a really extremist candidate will be elected. And I think it's important that we maintain all of the arrangements that we have to ensure that improper conduct and so on can be dealt with, and we're writing all of that into the bill. So I am, however, a Democrat. You know, I, in the end, think that it is up to the people to decide who they elect. And I trust the people. I think the size of these electorates mean that the elected individual will not be susceptible of being directed in any way by a small or vociferous group. Because we're not talking about elections at the very local level, where extremists have been able to capture elections. But I think we should have faith in our democracy and respect for the public in terms of who it is they will elect.